Right. Imagine being so spectacularly out of control of your own government that your own MPs are voting against you to force the release of documents that will almost certainly destroy what is left of your credibility. That is not a hypothetical scenario. That is literally what just happened to Keir Starmer. We are talking about a prime minister who has lost control of his own parliamentary party, who cannot even count on his own MPs to protect him from political suicide, who is watching in real time as the people who are supposed to support him essentially say, you know what, we would rather have the truth than continue covering for you. This is not just a political defeat. This is a complete collapse of authority. When your own side turns against you and demands transparency that will damage you, you are not governing anymore. You are just occupying office while everything falls apart around you. And the documents that are about to be released, they are being described as bombshells that could end Starmer's premiership within days. We are watching a government implode in slow motion, and it is absolutely mesmerizing. If you want to see every devastating detail as these documents get released and Starmer's world comes crashing down, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now, because what is about to drop is going to be absolutely nuclear, and you need to be here when it happens. So, let us talk about what just occurred in Parliament, because it is genuinely unprecedented in modern British political history. A vote was held on whether to release documents relating to Peter Mandelson's appointment and his various connections, documents that the government has been desperately trying to keep secret, documents that Starmer has personally fought to suppress. And when the votes were counted, the motion to release the documents passed. Now, that might not sound immediately dramatic until you understand what it means. Enough Labour MPs defied their own Prime Minister, crossed party lines in effect, and voted for transparency, even though they know it will damage their own government. This is not supposed to happen. Government MPs are supposed to protect their leader, to close ranks, to maintain party unity even when things get difficult. The fact that they did not, the fact that they essentially chose truth over loyalty, tells you everything you need to know about how bad things have gotten for Starmer. The rebellion was not small or marginal either. We are talking about dozens of Labour MPs who looked at the situation, looked at the mounting evidence of cover-ups and evasion, looked at their own consciences and their constituents, and decided that continuing to protect Starmer was not worth the damage to their own integrity. Some of them gave quite moving speeches about why they were voting for release, talking about the importance of transparency, about how democracy requires accountability, about how the public deserves to know the truth. And implicit in every one of those speeches was the devastating message: we do not trust our own Prime Minister to tell us the truth, so we are forcing his hand. Now, the government tried everything to prevent this vote from succeeding. They whipped their MPs hard. They called in favors. They made promises and threats. They deployed every tool in the political playbook to maintain control. And it was not enough. The rebellion happened anyway, and it happened on a scale that suggests this is not just about the Mandelson documents. This is about a fundamental breakdown of trust between Starmer and his own parliamentary party. When MPs no longer believe their leader is being honest with them, when they no longer trust his judgment, when they would rather take the political hit of a public rebellion than continue enabling his behavior, that leader is finished. They might not have a formal vote of no confidence yet, but this parliamentary vote was effectively a vote of no confidence in everything but name. The documents that are now set to be released are being described by people who have seen them as absolutely devastating. We are talking about evidence of the vetting process being deliberately subverted, about warnings that were ignored, about Starmer personally intervening to override objections. There are apparently communications that show he knew about problematic aspects of Mandelson's background and appointed him anyway. There are records of meetings where concerns were raised and dismissed. There is documentation of a systematic effort to suppress information that would have prevented or complicated the appointment. If even half of what is being reported about these documents is accurate, Starmer is going to have an extremely difficult time explaining his way out of this. The timing of this vote is particularly significant because it comes after weeks of Starmer insisting that the documents could not be released for various reasons, all of which were transparently thin excuses designed to avoid accountability. He claimed security concerns. He claimed legal restrictions. He claimed that releasing them would set dangerous precedents, and his own MPs essentially called rubbish on all of it by voting to release them anyway. If the security concerns were genuine, Labour MPs would not have voted for release. If the legal restrictions were real, they would have been respected. If the precedent argument had merit, it would have been persuasive. The fact that none of these arguments worked, even with the Prime Minister's own party, tells you they were never legitimate reasons. They were always just excuses to hide damaging information. The opposition is absolutely jubilant about this development, as you might imagine. They have been demanding release of these documents for weeks. They have been calling Starmer's stonewalling a cover-up, and now his own MPs have essentially validated that assessment by voting to force transparency. The Conservatives are already preparing to use the contents of these documents as ammunition for weeks, if not months, of attacks. The Reform UK is drafting motions of no confidence based on what they expect to find in the documents. The Liberal Democrats are calling for a full public inquiry into the entire appointment process. The political sharks smell blood in the water, and they are circling with increasing aggression. But here's what makes this situation even more delicious. Starmer can't even attack the MPs who rebelled against him without making his situation worse. If he tries to discipline them or remove the whip, he looks authoritarian and petty, and he risks triggering even more rebellions. If he does nothing, he looks weak and unable to control his own party. If he tries to get ahead of the document release by making some kind of preemptive statement, he risks saying things that the documents will immediately contradict. He is trapped in a situation where every possible response makes things worse, which is the political equivalent of being in checkmate but having to keep playing anyway. The media is having an absolute heyday with this story because it has everything: rebellion, secrets about to be revealed, a prime minister losing control, constitutional drama, and the promise of even more explosive revelations to come. Every news channel is covering this extensively. Every political podcast is dissecting what it means. Every newspaper has it on the front page. And the coverage is uniformly terrible for Starmer, because even outlets that are normally sympathetic to Labour cannot spin this as anything other than a catastrophic loss of authority. Social media has exploded with reaction, and the consensus is pretty clear: Starmer is finished. The hashtags are brutal, the memes are savage, and the analysis from political commentators is uniformly grim for the Prime Minister. People are openly speculating who will replace him, about when the leadership contest will happen, about whether Labour can recover from this disaster. The court of public opinion has rendered its verdict, and it is not favorable. Now, let us talk about what no longer in control actually means in practical governing terms, because this is not just about one parliamentary vote. When a prime minister loses their party, they lose the ability to govern effectively. Every piece of legislation becomes a negotiation rather than a certainty. Every policy initiative faces potential rebellion. Every difficult decision gets second-guessed and potentially overturned. Ministers start positioning themselves for the post-Starmer era rather than focusing on their jobs. Civil servants start looking to other power centers for direction because they know the prime minister's authority is shot. The entire machinery of government starts to seize up because nobody is quite sure who is actually in charge anymore. We are already seeing evidence of this breakdown in multiple areas. Cabinet meetings are reportedly tense and unproductive, with ministers more interested in protecting themselves than supporting collective decisions. Policy announcements are being delayed or watered down because nobody is confident they can get them through Parliament. International negotiations are suffering because foreign governments can see that Starmer is weakened and they are adjusting their positions accordingly. The day-to-day functioning of government is being impaired by the political crisis at the top, and that has real consequences for the country. The documents themselves are expected to be released within days, possibly even hours, and Westminster is essentially holding its breath waiting for the detonation. There is feverish speculation about exactly what will be in them, with leaks and rumors flying in every direction. Some sources suggest the documents show Starmer was explicitly warned that Mandelson had problematic associations, and he dismissed those warnings as politically motivated attacks. Other reports indicate there are communications showing he knew about problematic aspects of Mandelson's background and appointed him anyway. There are records of meetings where concerns were raised and dismissed. There is documentation of a systematic effort to suppress information that would have prevented or complicated the appointment. If even half of what is being reported about these documents is accurate,